in the moment that Halbrand, let's say Halbrand gets revealed as Sauron, I would be at once like, aha, and like, okay. Hey, Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about The Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 6, Udun. We open with Adar planting Symbalmuna seeds in anticipation of battle. As we find out, it's an elven custom that he still practices, though notably the orcs he leads don't appear to be planting seeds. So it's kind of a remnant of his elvenness. We end with Mount Doom erupting, sadly killing everyone in sight, including our heroes, the Ents.
Ooh, big change in canon. Ooh.
Yeah, right. I recently watched the documentary on Pompeii, so now I'm an expert on volcanic eruptions, Paul. What we saw enveloping Galadriel and the town at the end of that episode was the pyroclastic flow, of course. It's essentially a superheated cloud traveling hundreds of miles per hour that is hundreds of degrees in temperature, pretty much 100% fatality rate, but I think it's going to be 100% fatal for anonymous villagers.
Has that been tested for elves?
Right, good point. Elves are, I think there was a Tolkien note that said elves are resistant to volcanoes.
There you go.
They're just fine. So basically everybody but Galadriel dead. No. Our heroes will live to fight another day. So with that said, Paul...
Yes?
What did you think of episode 6?
I was underwhelmed. It was a big battle, and it certainly looked good, I guess, for a battle there. The fact that the event that ended the last episode, now we're going to see what happens. Okay, they charged the castle or whatever, and then a bunch of them die, but certainly not all of them. No.
Right. I was thinking that myself. It's like, that wasn't that effective? Like, you're like, oh, we're going to take them all out. It'll be great. Oh, we took out a indeterminate number, but there's still way more than us. Okay. All right. Well, then we
I would
lost
have
our
thought
tower.
the old turncoat there, would have been one of the first to be in that group, but I guess not. He was smart.
Yeah.
Not to be in that first group and get killed.
He's lived this long.
So then they had a little break where they could prepare for another, siege. And then, they look like they're successful, but no, they're not successful. Now for the real battle, and then
right. It was a series of false starts, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Like,
and then that whole Mexican standoff was there, and then turns out that it was all for nothing.
Oh, wow! All right.
So I mean, it's in a way, I guess maybe this is the Empire Strikes Back moment, where it's like, the people we thought were good, they're not winning, and here's the thing that was going to happen. I mean, I guess I should have figured that, even though I don't know the lore. I know that something bad is supposed to happen, so I shouldn't have had my hope up that the bad thing wouldn't happen. Of course it happens.
Of course it happens. Of course, if you've got a key that's going to activate something terrible, it's going to do it's
Chekhov could have stopped by and be like, why are you bothering? It's
Chekhov's volcanic eruption. Yeah. But the thing is, I will say this: maybe the plot even went too fast, but it moved so fast. This was literally something I was anticipating. We talked about it last week. I thought the mountain would explode in episode 8. So they went whoop. They just truncated everything. We're like, all right, get to it.
Well, this particular episode, with all those false starts, that's not fast. But this event, in terms of where it's supposed to happen, happened fast.
Right. Well, I just thought that this was such a momentous event that it would be a kind of a good, way to end season 1. Oh, right. Oh, we got to this point. The volcano erupts, and that pretty much signifies that Sauron has returned. It's like, oh, okay, and cut to credits. But now we've got 2 episodes, so I feel like the next thing they're gonna end on something huge. So what's bigger than the volcano erupting? I think it's got to be the reveal of Sauron.
Okay.
Of course, he wouldn't call himself Sauron because that means the abhorred, and he doesn't like to call himself that.
Oh, no?
Yeah, no. Don't call him Sauron to his face. You just call it behind his back. The scene where they ended up, the villagers ended up, realizing after the fact that they had killed their fellow townsfolk, it was sad, but I felt like it could have been done better in that. So somebody had pointed out that maybe if he'd gotten to know them a little better too, like, oh god, what's that guy? But also just in the moment, I think it would have been more effective to see somebody acknowledge, like in the middle of a fight, oh my god, that's Jerry from the bar. I can't kill him, and then that person then maybe gets killed in return or something because they couldn't actually bring themselves to kill their fellow.
You're much more forgiving of this than you were the Matrix.
That's right, in the Matrix where they're just killing everyone indiscriminately because they're like, well, they're computer folks.
Yep. So you're like, if only we didn't know that you were, if we thought you were all computer programs, it would have been okay.
Okay, here's a way that I think it was done maybe somewhat more emotionally impactfully.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones,
sure,
there was a bit where, what was it, Hardhome. The attack. So the walkers attack the town.
Yes.
And there's a bit where there's a woman, and it's like, these are kids, but they're not kids. They're skeleton things. They're zombie kids, basically.
Right.
But she can't bring herself to attack them because they're kids. They're kids from her town, and so she ends up getting killed because she's like, I can't. Emotionally, I can't bring myself to kill something that looks like this kid. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that might have been
it would have been harder to replicate that, but yeah.
I did feel the tension of those scenes. I mean, the bit where he's just one by one just stabbing villagers, like like, oh, I was like, damn. And there didn't seem to be any hope in sight. I mean, I get it, the cavalry's coming, but it felt like it was so dark that it was like, it's nighttime. These guys are traveling in the day. They're not going to get there till they just come up with corpses. But it worked out. So they found it.
Did it? I mean...
Well, good point. Well, I mean, yes, in the short term, it worked out. It's just they forgot. They did the thing with the wrapped up sword. It must be a sword. Come on. That I talked about in my reaction video, but come on. Really? You guys fell for that? I think the plan was, Adar's like, you see him talking to evil old man, Waldrig or whatever. It's like, all right, I have a task for you. And then Adar rides off. So he's trying to lead the good guys away while he's secretly given the key to Waldrig. So Galadriel and Halbrand catch up to Adar and get the package, the towel wrapped over the thing. But they wouldn't have even known what it was they just arrived to a fight. So they don't even know what it's supposed to be. Why wouldn't they open it? Oh, you have this random thing wrapped in a towel. I'll just take it back with me. Why do you open it? But no. Adar's plan worked perfectly. Anyway, that was like,
it's brilliant.
Yeah, that felt like a cartoon a little bit. Like, okay.
And I wasn't crazy about the, Halbrand, like, I'm going to kill him, and then Galadriel, no, we need to get information. Like, really? You think you're going to get information out of that guy? And then she tries to talk, and then she doesn't get any information. Then I'll kill you! And then Halbrand has to be like, no, I'll stop you. Like, what the heck?
Yes, that whole turnabout was like, that felt very forced. Agreed. That was not the strongest writing for the show. I'll say one thing that I thought, as I saw it unfold, I thought, I'll bet you Paul is in favor of this.
Oh, interesting.
Is because I know one of the issues you've had with Lord of the Rings. You're not like the biggest devotee of Lord of the Rings.
Definitely not. No.
And one of your main problems, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but
I will tell you.
You feel like the elves versus orcs is too simplistic. Oh, it's good versus evil, and all the orcs are terrible, and all the elves are awesome.
Yep.
And so this episode brought up something that does come from the Silmarillion. I quoted it in my reaction video. And it's been... Tolkien changed his mind over the years on it, but it's in the Silmarillion. That's about as, canon as anything else. And so it's something I thought you would appreciate, which is, orcs were elves who were kind of tortured into submission. And so, but they are living creatures. Melkor Morgoth didn't create them. He couldn't create life. He just tortured something that was living into something that he could, master. And so, hey, the orcs deserve to live too. We're living, breathing creatures. And, we're not just evil things that shake our fists. Anyway, so I thought, I bet you Paul will appreciate that the show is taking that tactic.
How was that expressed in the show?
Adar, when he's talking to Galadriel, his speech to her is basically like, hey, I was basically a proto-orc. I was captured, tortured. I became kind of the model for the orcs that came after me. That's why I call myself their father. I am looking after their interests. And when Sauron, after the War of Wrath, started to create some new world, he was doing it on the backs of experimenting on orcs. And so I killed him because his allegiance is to the orcs, and he's trying to create a habitable world for orcs. Orcs can't stand the sunlight. This volcano is going to make this little patch of land that they can live on. And so it's kind of saying orcs aren't just chaotic evil orcs.
Okay. So that's what he's saying. You know.
And then he brings up a very good point, because Galadriel's basically talking about genocide. She's like, I'll just kill them all. And he's like, yeah, well, it sounds like you're the one who's been tainted by Morgoth more than me. You're the one who's like, kill everyone. So yeah. Anyway, he points out that she's not all good and light,
Sunshine
and he's
and light,
not all dark and evil.
I mean, Adar's a good villain, except for that one scene with that guy where he didn't appear to be as compassionate as he could have been. He's forcing him to get a suntan there.
Oh, okay, sure.
To that orc.
Tough love,
yeah,
Paul.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the love, especially.
He's their coach. He's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Gather up, everybody. Huddle up.
Nice if we saw some reformed orcs, that were like, if I could just clean up a little bit, maybe I could be an elf again. But no.
And obviously Adar has not actually killed Sauron. He probably killed Sauron's physical form. That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
But that does not mean the end of Sauron, unless this show is really going outside of canon. Like, what? Nah, we don't need Sauron for this show. There was also, I don't think I can show the photos because I think they're getting taken down, and I don't want to risk getting us a copyright strike or something. But there are some photos from a Dutch Instagram site that are either from the next episode or the episode after. Mm-hmm. They're somewhat interesting in that they show Galadriel is clad in an ornate green and gold dress, and she's standing in front of what looks like a smithy or a forge. There's some tools nearby, but more importantly, we see what appears to be, and it's a little bit of a distant shot, so you can, to my eye, it appears to be Galadriel and Halbrand riding to Eregion. This would mean that Halbrand is about to meet up with Celebrimbor, which would certainly add fuel to the Halbrand equals Sauron Sauronometer score.
Okay.
And so anyway, so that's just interesting that if that's the case, first of all, Eregion is several hundred miles away from where they are, but they're like, just like they're like sailing the Númenóreans across the sea, and they're like, okay, they got there. They're doing the thing that my improv group would do with we would do these improvised action movies. So you try to tell an action movie in, say, 20 or 30 minutes. Well, one of our little unofficial rules is just cut out the travel. Unless you're going to have something happen dramatically during the travel, like somebody turns on somebody, or I picked up an object that's going to help me. You just go like, we've got to get to Venice. Look, we're in Venice. You're just like, who cares? Nobody wants to see you traveling. So that's kind of what the show is doing. They're like, we're on a boat. We got there. Oh, we had to ride across all the way through inland. We got there. So in some ways it might be like, we need to get to Eregion. We got there. All right. Okay, fair enough. I'll run through a couple of Easter eggs. I mentioned the phrase Udun, which is the title in my reaction video, Morgoth's Fortress. It's a relevant phrase for what's happening in this episode. I'm going to go back to, this is kind of like the Sauronometer again. In my reaction video, I mentioned this line that Halbrand had where he talked about, he said, fighting at your side. I felt if I could just hold on to that feeling, keep it with me always, bind it to my very being. It's the word bind in particular. It's like, huh? It makes you sit up and take notice. I'm about to play the part of like the obsessed detective with the strings of yarn connecting the suspects. Who's probably a little crazy with the conspiracy theories. But earlier in the episode, when the orcs are searching the abandoned tower for humans, there's an orc that says Gimbatul, which means find them. That term gets spoken multiple times in Jackson's trilogy. It's from Ashnaz Gimbatul, which it means one ring to find them. It's the black speech of Mordor. It's inscribed on the one ring. The writers of this episode chose to use the two most important rhyming words from the most important verse about the rings, find and bind. I mean, this verse is kind of the Rosetta Stone for the Lord of the Rings. And I feel like it's very intentional for a series called The Rings of Power to include those. So, you got the 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal man doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
That's right. You need your Rings of Power advent calendar or something like Hence, I just say throwing such strong allusions to words inscribed, literally inscribed on the one ring, and having the word bind come from Halbrand's mouth really points in his direction.
Interesting.
Yeah. The words that Bronwyn uses to soothe young Theo about the darkness is a passing thing.
Yes.
That comes from the Return of the King.
Okay.
In the middle of the worst of it, Sam looks up and he sees a star in the sky. And the line is, "There, peeping among the cloud rack, above a dark tor, high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end, the shadow is only a small and passing thing. There was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach." So anyway, they're throwing in allusions to Lord of the Rings stuff. Arondir mentions to Bronwyn that there's one of the Valar who watches over the flora and fauna of the world. That would be Yavanna. She's the one who sang the trees of Valinor into existence, the ones that we see get destroyed by Melkor at the beginning of this show. And she was the Vala who insisted Radagast, the Brown, be included in the wizards, the Astari, who headed to Middle-earth. Hence, his focus on plants and the animals of the region. Anyway, so Yavanna. Galadriel says Norolim to her horse, which means run swift. Glorfindel uses that phrase to urge his horse past the Nazgûl in the Fellowship of the Ring. And Arwen, who replaced Glorfindel in that scene for the films, uses the same phrase. So again, a little callback there. There were a fair number of Easter eggs in this, but those were kind of the highlights for me. There's a scene where Arondir is trying to break the sword key, right? And he can't break it.
Yep.
And they're like, damn it, we gotta hide it. All right, well, when we later see that the keyhole is right there next to the statuary that they were looking at originally, hence, I feel like they probably saw the keyhole. Wouldn't it be easier to make the keyhole unworkable than it is to destroy the undestroyable key? If I could just, whatever. If you have some form of cement or mortar, you just pour it into you're like, all right, we got it. All right, we're done. But then it wouldn't erupt, Paul, and then the story's gone.
That's true.
So now that Mount Doom has erupted, And, obviously the good guys those that are still alive are going to have to head west, essentially, get out of there. Who is Sauron is pretty much the big mystery to go. And I guess I feel like the stranger subplot, especially because we didn't see him at all this episode, I don't know if that's going to get resolved. Are we going to know who the stranger is by the end of the season, or is that more of a season 2 thing that they just planted the seeds, so to speak?
You can't see that as part of the reveal, like, oh, now you see who Sauron is, and you see that the stranger is really Gandalf or whatever.
Right. Yep. No, it's true. No, not to say that it's not possible. I'm just like, I'm wondering.
I guess they could do it without doing the other, but then they probably will just. I mean, what was your other idea? Thinking that he was a Balrog?
Right. Or that he's just an anonymous Maya spirit. That he's a powerful creature that could be used for good or evil, or he could make up his own mind. Hey, I could help out the good guys. Hey, I could help out the bad guys. And so,
So now, for you though, you're thinking it's Halbrand. You're thinking it's more likely that he's okay.
Yeah. I went back and forth on this.
Because that scene, that was another scene I wasn't crazy about. Because it's like, oh, who are you? This great
right.
I'm the king, and it's like, it's so pathetic.
Yeah, he's the king, and no one recognizes him. Also, one theory that we kind of threw out as a possible theory a few episodes ago has been disproven, which was that maybe he was connected to Bronwyn, and that maybe he was Theo's dad. Well, she doesn't seem to recognize him, so I'm going to say that's not a thing. No one recognizes him.
Maybe it was dark.
Right. He's unrecognizable to folks, but he has this little seal, which anybody could have. Somebody could steal it from him and be like, "No, I'm the king." Oh, he's the king. But anyway, very notably, he's upset with Adar. We know Adar, at least in his mind, slew Sauron's body, and Halbrand comes up to him and says, "Hey, do you remember me?" And Adar doesn't seem to remember him. And then at the very end of the interrogation scene, Adar says, "Who are you?" And we don't get an answer. That's basically the audience asking, right? Who are you? And the show is not giving us that answer. So the show is asking us that question. They want us to be asking, who the hell is this guy?
Okay, let's say it is.
Okay, let's say
that it is Sauron. That it's Sauron.
All right.
How do you feel about how he's been introduced?
Yeah, I feel like way too many, it's like this Rube Goldberg machine of con jobs had to happen for him to get what he wanted, right? You're like, really? Like, if you go all the way back to him on the boat, on the raft, like hoping to find Galadriel swimming out at sea,
right.
From that, all doing the Numenor, being in jail, kind of talking to them, then getting all of that, he had to engineer all of that to get what he wanted. That feels very unlikely. I mean, just in terms of it doesn't.
Would you even have had scenes where he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. Well, okay.
Right, exactly. Trying to talk his way out of it because he knows that secretly they're gonna turn him back, or I actually do want to kill Adar, but when I see Galadriel trying to kill him, no, don't kill him because I need you to be on my side later. I don't know. I was like, God bless. Yeah, the number of choices he had to make, and he is devious. The character is devious,
sure.
But
okay.
I mean, there's a limit. I feel like in terms of pressing your story look. So yeah, it would be in the moment that let's say Halbrand gets revealed as Sauron, I would be at once like, aha, and okay, all right. Well, at least we know now. Okay, move along. His plan, so much had to go right, and to his credit, it all worked out. But yeah, because just in my immediate reaction to this episode, I was like, oh, his dialogue, it just sounded like, he seemed genuinely upset at how he or his family or whoever was treated by Adar. He confided in Galadriel. He saved Elendil's life which, Elendo's going to be a huge enemy of his going forward if he's Sauron. And so all these things, you're like, nah, he's probably not. And I was dropping the Sauronometer down to like 40%. But then that bind line combined with the fact that it looks like he's headed to Eregion in the future, in these last 2 episodes, my Sauronometer for Halbrand is back up to 80%. Halbrand is your Sauronometer pick of the week. I'll have Gil-galad still holds it we didn't see him, so he's still out there. He's got a minor percentage. I'm gonna add a character yet to be seen. Like, we haven't seen Sauron yet. I feel like there's a small chance of that. I'm gonna put that at 10%.
Okay.
So I'll give we haven't seen Sauron yet at a 10% possibility. There.
So you can still get credit for it if you're right.
I still get credit, right? Yeah, 10%, which means when he's not, it'd be like, oh, see, I only gave it a 10%. But then when he is, you're like, see, I gave it a 10%. Yeah, all signs point to, I think, Halbrand at the moment. That's what the show wants us to think anyway. And maybe that's like a big mistake.
A head fake, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I still like the characters enough. But, yeah, I wasn't in love with this episode.
Okay. Okay. You're not usually a big bunch of fights guy, right?
No.
Usually kind of fast forward past the fights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A lot of shows. All right.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't have been up your alley per se.
Yeah.
All right. Well, more intrigue probably next week, Paul.
Oh,
so,
good. That's what I want.
All right.
Give me more intrigue. Yeah.
Okay. And some orcs who are going to be nice. There, that's what we want. Some nice orcs.
I want some benevolent orcs.
Benevolent orcs on the way for Paul.
Yes.
All right, so that said, we'll be back talking about episode 7. We're going to be talking about House of the Dragon, talking about She-Hulk. So come on back for all of that. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
You're welcome. Sure.
And we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.